Hi, everybody. Today is September 6th, 2023. This is CALPADS Q A. My name is Alex Manriquez, and I'm a data analyst at CISA supporting CALPADS. Driving for us today is Mr. Gary Gerber. Moving on to announcements. First off, what is that a letter to the superintendents was sent yesterday, and it talks about proposed new end-of-year deadlines and the impacts that those will have. The letter to the superintendents was very high level, and so the CDE is planning on sending up a follow-up flash with that same information, but just a little bit more detailed to all of you on the field. So keep an eye out for a flash that's coming out soon. Next up is that the nightly processing failed last night with CALPADS, and what that means is that ODS reports and extracts are not available in CALPADS, which you may have noticed already. We do have a message up on the board, and Gary's showing it to us on the screen right now. In the home screen, whenever there's an outage or something like that that's happened in CALPADS, we post it up on the messages on the home page. So when in doubt, if you're not seeing something and something looks funky, check here first. Chances are the message board will have information on that. And lastly, just a reminder that the New Year rollover with CALPADS is scheduled for September 19th as part of our regular Tuesday release. All that means is that on that day, the new year of 23-24 will be the default. The new code sets will be implemented, the new files for SPED redesign. So all that new stuff is going to be live and updated in CALPADS on that date. And with that, I'm going to pass the torch over to Angela, Martha, or anybody from CDE that has anything to add.
I'll add real quick to introduce Shaun Walker, who is now a member of the Department of Ed's CALPADS data office, and she is on the Q&A with us today. So welcome, Shaun.
Happy to have you on the team. We'll try to take it easy on you with all the questions. And with that, I'm going to jump into question number 1. And that is from Denise from Palo Alto, Q1. Per the CDE guideline on SPED private school reporting, DOR offers FAPE and District of Location reports all initial ISP assessments. Is family required to obtain and present proof that they declined FAPE from District of Residence when they request ISP initial assessments from District of Location? Oh boy. Joe, can I phone a friend? Is Joe here?
I haven't seen Joe yet.
Hey, Alex.
He's
Joe.
actually in another meeting today, so he would be present. Sorry.
Hey, Chris. Hi, Milo. One of you want to answer? Do either of you have any guidance on this?
Alex.
Yeah, I think we may need to get back to you on this one.
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
We might need to get back to you on this or submit a ticket on this one for us.
Okay. Denise, if you could please submit a ticket on this, and you can put attention Alex, and I'll route it over to the SPED office. Moving on to Shelley, Q1. Is there any way to make the SSID extract available even when the other extracts are not available, or would it not work properly?
We can ask. Don't have any idea. I think it's all packaged under the same functionality, but we can ask Shelley because it's a very good point. If we're going to be late or not having extracts, that's a big impact at the beginning of school not to get those IDs back. So as a reminder, if you send us in a ticket, that will help us get that question asked in the right venue.
Moving on to Evan, Q1. Has ETS resolved the issue that was preventing the ELAS of students who had recently taken the initial LPAC from showing up in CALPADS? I'm hearing mixed reports from our LEAs. And then Thor responded saying, no official update yet. ETS are still sending files and CalPADS is processing the files. Smaller files are getting processed, so some LEAs might see some ELAS statuses trickle in. Thanks for that response, Laura. Maritza, Q1, is the new graduation exempt code requirement only for SB 532 students? I don't know that off the top of my head.
Will you read that again? Because I'm not seeing that question.
Sure. At 303, it says, is the new graduation exempt code requirement only for SB 532 students?
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Maritza, we may need a ticket on this so that we can dive into that specific graduation exempt code and look at the specs for that.
Because there are the two different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to say, yeah, never mind. I won't say. Have the ticket and do it more cautiously.
Yeah. And Rebecca from Fresno did responses. I can't think of another situation that this would pertain to. I believe it is only SB 532. And then provides the code, the ed code for it. Thank you, Rebecca. Maritza, if you still want to put into the ticket, we'll be happy to look into it. But and just and follows up, says, I want to know if it includes students with disabilities. I believe it's all inclusive. I don't think that it excludes any. They're specific.
Typically, right, they're the ones with severe disabilities, right? So the exemption is typically students with disability. The SB 532 one.
So yeah, and I think we may be confusing because it's there's the exemption code, right? And then that says that they graduated with the minimum state requirements. And then there's the new completion status code, which is the alternative diploma.
You're right. Three things going on there, huh?
So, Maritza, if you could just put in a ticket and then let us know exactly which one you want information on, we can get that for you. Right below that at 303, Rebecca from Fresno COE, doing the sharing is caring as always, provided the letter that I was referencing in the beginning of the call, the letter that was sent to the superintendent. And Wendy's question 1 says, when will the new SINF be available? Both parents' education levels. That's part of the New Year rollover, as Kyron mentioned there. So September 19th, that's when CalPADS will start accepting that new file. Amanda, Q1. We are no longer identifying GATE students in our district. Do we continue to report our students who were previously reported as GATE until they exit from the district, or do we close the programs?
I would say if you're no longer offering the program, then they're not participating in that program.
But GATE was an eligibility program, so that they didn't have to participate. I would just wonder,
good point.
Are they eligible for perpetuity? If so, then report it.
Evan says, yeah, Shaun. And Jamie, congratulations, Shaun. I'm so happy for you. Rebecca says, congratulations, Shaun. Rebecca says, nice job, Shaun. Congrats. I just jumped on, so I'm thinking you got Brandy's open position. That's correct, Rebecca. She did. Moving on to Alex, Q1 says, with the issue last night, will DC run again tonight or not until next month? I don't know that that was impacted, was it?
The file just came today, the DC file, so it should load correctly tonight and results available in the morning.
And Stephen says, congratulations, Shaun. Great to see the best of the Los Angeles region at CSIS. Shelley, I see your question too. And we'll circle back. Robin, Q1. Any updates on the Tom? Oh, did I already say this one? No, it's the same question. I don't think I've read this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and read it. It says, any updates on the Toms to CalPADS issues with EL IFAP records since the email sent out Friday? And the same answer as Thor mentioned above said, no official update yet. ETS are still sending files and CalPADS is processing the files. Miguel, Q1. Will there be a new updated template? One of them specifically being the SELA. Our SIS updated our new language codes but failed because of this. So I don't believe that the file templates themselves are going to be changed for SELA. It's just the codes.
Does it go from 2-character to 3-character?
Mm-hmm. But the actual file template will be the same, correct?
Right. The layout of which field is in which position. Yeah.
But the new language codes will be accepted by CalPADS with the rollover. So September 19th is when those new codes would be able to be posted in CalPADS. Maritza, oh, okay. So that she's clarifying that SB 532 are students that are in juvenile, homeless, military, unaccompanied, foster, migratory, or newcomer. Yeah, so you'll put in a ticket and we'll get that straightened out. And then Shaun Walker is responding to everybody saying, thank you all so much. It's a pleasure to be with CDE. Lori, Q1. Have you heard of an issue when mids are merged and the ETS assessments never show up on the retained SSID? I have a couple of these, one unresolved from last year, and ETS just tells me I need to wait for systems to catch up. Thor's response says, Lori, it's possible if the SSID the student took the test under was retired, this would need to be a ticket. Include the current SSID. It requires some investigation. Okay. Barbara, question 1 says, am I correct in assuming that vendors are fully briefed on both the SELA and the parent ed level changes in the SINF? Yes, they have been told they have the new templates and the new codes. Everyone should be ready to go. Stephen, Q1, says, what are the implications of the TOMS to CalPADS issue? Does it affect TOMS the parent untested reports for initial LPAC? Does it create a perception in TOMS that a student who has tested in TOMS has not tested, creating potential issues with duplicate testing? Or is the record of testing in TOMS and preventing duplicate testing with it being simply an issue in CalPADS updating status? I believe, and Thor can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that this is just an issue with CalPADS not displaying the results. TOMS has everything for the student. I don't believe that TOMS would let the student retest. It's just the status isn't reflected in CalPADS.
That's my understanding.
Thanks, Gary. Thor, please feel free to chime in if I said something incorrectly. Okay, here I see it. I think Alex is correct. Once tested, you shouldn't be able to test again. Stephanie, Q1. I recently put in a request to switch to make me the CalPADS LEA admin. I received the email to say resolved. Can you tell me when I will start receiving emails from CalPADS? I didn't get the new school dashboard dates letter. And then Jaime put the link or the PDF of the letter that was sent out. And Shaun says, please check your junk spam folder and ensure it's the CalPADS email isn't blocked. Also, the flash is forthcoming and hasn't gone out yet. The other thing, Stephanie, is, and this is my understanding, I don't believe that you're automatically part of the listserv just because you're the CalPADS LEA admin. I think you have to do that still separately.
No, as an LEA admin, they automatically put you on the listserv.
Oh, all right. Then never mind.
CDE does, but I don't know the timing of that.
Okay.
But would that letter didn't really go to just the coordinators,
Correct.
right?
It went to the superintendents.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, that flash is still forthcoming. Were those all the question ones?
Wow.
Did you miss Miguel at 3:07?
Maybe. No.
You did answer that one. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I must have been working on something else.
With
Sorry.
the one about the new updated templates.
Yeah.
Yeah. We answered that one. And I'm gonna circle. We only had one question too, and that was Shelley at 3:05. Question 2 says, does CalPADS go down during the day for the rollover? That's funny. Angela just mentioned that.
Right before we let people in, I was asking Martha that because usually it does, but apparently they were doing some pre-work past couple nights, so we don't expect it to be down all day. It should just be a regular Tuesday morning deployment.
But we'll let you know as things progress. So, Alex, I actually looked up the change requests that had to do with the SB 532.
Oh,
It's titled Collection of Graduates with Exemptions, Pupil Instruction, High School Coursework and Graduation Requirements, Exemptions and Alternatives passed in September 2022 and became effective. And it includes a new data collection requirement that impacts CalPADS. So yes, she was right in that it's not students with disability. It's just, I think any student can satisfy this, but it's typically that group that she did mention probably.
But I thought her question was, did the new completion status code pertain to SB 532? And I thought those students called out were going to get the exemption indicator field, which is not going to be implemented right now.
So you are correct, Nate, that the SB 532 have to do with the new field added to the SENR on September 19th, right, for exemptions. The completion status code has to do with the students with disability that they were awarded a diploma with some sort of waiver of some sort of requirements.
The alternative high school diploma.
Yes. So that's the difference. Completion status code is for the students with disability. That new field in the SENR are for those students that have exemptions. Hopefully that straightened that out.
We got a couple more Q1s. First one from Javier. Q1 says, we have a student who was previously identified as EL. However, his family now wants to change his SELA record to English only. Is that possible? I guess it depends on the reason. If the home language survey was filled out incorrectly and the student was tested when they shouldn't have been, then there is a correction code that you can use where you can submit a subsequent EO with the correction reason 4, I want to say. But it's specific to that scenario, right? So I believe that CDE has a corrections, I think it's called corrections at a glance. And Kyron, thank you for that. He posted it on the chat. So you can see all the different types of corrections and the progression, what the correction reason would be. So take a look at that and see if that applies with your scenario. Rebecca from Lancaster says, regarding end of year early dates beginning 23-24, were those dates the initial deadlines or final deadlines being proposed? Meaning, do we still have an initial deadline, then an amendment deadline? The letter didn't specify. Thought that was the final deadline, right?
That's my understanding. Just one.
Yeah, final, because that's when they need to pull the data to start prepping it for the dashboard. So the final deadline is, and of course, if the final deadline moves up, then probably that interim one is likely to change, or there may not be one, an interim one. It's just the final deadline only. You don't have a chance to amend the data.
Shelley, Q3. FYI, I put in the ticket for my Q1 and was referred to the message on CalPADS homepage. I asked for the ticket to be sent to Martha. I hope that's okay. Reference number 293719.
Sure, I will grab it.
Yolanda's asking what letter? And so there was a letter that was sent to superintendents that talked about the proposed new end of year deadlines that are, going to be, oh, thank you, Jaime, that letter. and the impacts that these new proposed deadlines will have on districts and why we need them earlier. Like we said earlier in the call, the letter to the superintendent was a little more high level. Flash will be coming out to all of you that's a little bit more specific, that will dive into a little bit more detail. So look out for that flash. Should be coming out in the very near future. Elizabeth, Q1. If a student on an IEP transferred in and the IEP from the previous district is adopted, but there is no enrollment or IEP transaction from that previous district in CalPADS, will it create an error for if the new district tries to upload that IEP into CalPADS? No, it won't. So if I understand this correctly, you have a student that's coming into your district. They have a previous IEP from, I don't know, District X, but there's no enrollment for District X, right? So you're wondering, if I adopt that IEP from District X, is that going to cause an issue for you? It won't. CalPADS isn't looking for the other previous enrollment from the district. So you should be fine. It is kind of odd, though, that the other district didn't have an enrollment. So maybe I would just double check with the other district just to be on the safe side. Maybe the student, they never had that student and they failed to remove that SPED record. So I would just double check to make sure that that meeting actually was held for that student before you adopt it. Kelly, Q1. I was on the SACE version of the SPED redesign presentation today, and they referenced what they called the district enrollment start date several times. This is the current year start date, correct? Their field is labeled date student enrolled in district LEA, and that is a very different data point. I don't know if that's the SACE specific question, right? As I think what you're saying is that there's a field in SACE that's labeled date student enrolled in district. Or is anyone else reading that differently?
Yeah, I don't know SACE enough. I would think that they would be the one to clarify that. ask them what it relates to in the file specification, if it is indeed the enrollment start date from the SENR file.
Oh, Lori responded, says, I was on that call. They clarified by saying it's the enrollment start date of the current school year. There you go. Thank you, Lori.
I think the distinction with the calling it the district for SACE is with the students with disability files, it doesn't go by, school of attendance, it's by the LEA. So they're just probably trying to make it clear.
Larney, Q1. I have not put in a lot of thought on the new language codes. Is there an impact on the SELA file due to the new codes? Well, there's the impact in that the file just requires, those new sets of codes now, but nothing in the actual file layout. I think maybe, Larney, what I would suggest is just start with your SIS and see what kind of updates they're recommending you do in your SIS, because those codes need to be translated. So there may be something that you have to do on your end, and they may have more guidance on the timing of how and when you do that locally. Maritza, Q2. If we have students from different schools that have a discipline incident, do they need to be reported under the same incident ID? If so, I'll need to work with our SIS vendor because we can't do same at different schools. Oh, I think we had talked about
That's in the
this.
CFS, isn't it? We have to go look at what the rules say in the CFS.
Yeah.
About the incident ID. Think. It keeps moving. Within the school of attendance.
Yeah, so it has to be, even though it's the same incident, because the students are in two different schools, they have to have different incident IDs. So I guess all is good then with your SIS. And then Karen posted a clarification at 3:29, says only SENR, SINF, and the 4 new SPED files have impacts to the file layouts. And I believe that the user manual, and when you go to the file templates page, it has already that distinction, and it has that 23, 24 file layouts, the new versions of them. So it's very clear as soon as you go to that page on our user manual, which ones are the ones that are new. Rebecca, Q2, which is a follow-up from Q1 regarding the letter to the suits. Says, are the people named in the letter the only ones they want feedback from? Since it wasn't addressed to us and it seems we received it as information, it didn't seem that they were asking for feedback from us, the LEA admins.
It's true. I mean, if you want to give feedback to your superintendents, I think the intent was leadership has to be aware of these critical dates changing, which likely impacts district-wide processes. And when the flash comes out, if you have feelings about it and you want to share, your take on it and share it with your superintendent, that may be the way to go.
Dana Q1 says, I have a mid that matches with 3 different SSIDs, and they are all the same student. How do I decide which SSID to combine to? They are all from the same school, 1-day enrollment and then N470 exit. I think the merging would have to happen twice then, right? So you'd merge it with one SSID, and then the remaining SSID would still create that match, and so it would still be a mid. So eventually you'd have to do all three. Carol, Q1. We have a student enrolled in an NPS per the IEP. Is there any documentation to help me understand, whoops, what type of data is required to be reported to CALPADS concerning the student? Milo, thank you for answering. So there's an FAQ regarding NPS. That was posted. And then Shaun Walker says the data guide has information, also flash 159. Awesome. Barbara says, are we expected to change all the previously inputted language codes to the new 3-letter codes?
So Flash 256 covered this, the strategy, the approach, I believe. Gary, are you able to bring that up? Normally, it's the students that were previously marked with other. That is a strategy to start with those that were marked as other. And if now we have a language code in the code sets that weren't there previously, that you may want to change and change the other to what the language code is, they would be good candidates. But if they were English, you don't really have to change anything because I believe the vendors are mapping that as well. It's the others, they don't know what to map it to. So guidance for transitioning, scroll down a little bit, Gary. Review your student population, look for the ones that were unknown or other. And then based on a review of that, you guys, strategize how you need to change things. And then what do you do going forward as well? So Barbara, if that doesn't help you, send us a ticket and we'll see what we can do to help you.
Elizabeth, Q2. Is there a reason the plan effective date would change on an amendment if there are no changes to the IEP? For example, meeting to discuss attendance or behavior support, but it doesn't prompt any changes to the IEP. Right now it says it is requiring that plan effective date be changed to the amendment meeting date, or it comes up as an error during the affirming process. They said CalPET says the plan effective date needs to change regardless, but I'm just wondering why if nothing on the IEP is actually changing. Because this is say specific, I don't know why. I don't think I can answer this question.
Elizabeth, if you can send in a ticket, we can CC Christy Swenson, and she can probably provide more input on that as well, so that we're all on the same page. I think that would be best.
Okay. Thanks, Milo. So Elizabeth, if you want to put in a ticket, again, you can put my name on it and I can route it up to the SPED office. And then Marissa's chiming in here saying they did mention this in today's training, indicating that a new plan transaction needs to be sent for each new amendment. Seems odd to me too. I thought we were supposed to be sending less data to CalPADS. So yeah, well, we'll get that ticket up and we can talk with SACE to get more information. Carol. Nope. We already answered that one. Ethan. Q1. Hi all. To report FRPM eligibility for a STEP school in their second year after their base year, what FRPM eligibility start date should we use for students who were deemed eligible in the base year and thus are not filling in alternative income forms this year? Should we use each of their first days of school from this year? Would love to just leave an open-ended FRPM record from last year all the way until the next base year, but that doesn't work, right? Has to be a new record each academic year. Yes, it is year to year.
And I would use the first day of enrollment as their program start date. And it's, I think why it's year to year, it may be a federal requirement too, that national school lunches have to be confirmed each year. And there was difficulties when we let it carry over from year to year because an application is only good for 1 year. So we implemented a rule that they have to be closed out every year and opened each year.
All right. Did I miss anybody? I think I got everyone's questions.
We've got 21 minutes to go.
Hmm. Not to put Shaun on the spot, but I'm wondering, like, where do you come from? Where'd you work? What's your background?
Brandy sang for us before too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you sing?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. She did.
Like, here's the thing. I was actually still thinking about Ethan's question. And you also still have students that are directly certified. So those students, you still want to make sure that you're capturing the dates from your direct cert reports and entering those in, even though you all are CP. And then to answer the rest of Alex's questions. I started off as a classroom teacher. I went from a classroom teacher to a single district SELPA office. So I was able to do, back then we called it CASEMIS. So I was able to submit CASEMIS reports. There was this really big book. It's called a tag. And I had to learn everything in it and submit for that LEA and for that SELPA. I eventually did some consulting and I switched over to the gen ed side and the classified side from the certificated side for a larger school district. And I did their CALPADS reporting, also their testing administrator for CAS, IPAC, TOMS, all of those. And then lastly, I worked for a charter school organization here in California that had multiple schools here, and then also schools out of state. So they kind of acted as a district office, but they called it a regional office. And I did their attendance, their CALPADS, and along with their testing, I also supported with CalSAS and the HR department with CBED's Oracle.
Basically everything.
Out of time, so I got a little bit of experience, I feel like, in like kind of each area, but it's been really beneficial because CalPADS has brought it all together.
Very impressive. And I believe there were some questions about, can you sing? Do you like to sing?
You don't want to hear me sing.
All right, we have one more Q1 from Chantel. Can we start a support group for the language code update change? I'm newish, about 5 months. Haven't wrapped my head around this.
You know, we don't do that kind of stuff. I'm wondering if your SIS user group does anything around these kind of topics. I mean, we've never done it before. Doesn't mean that we can't do it in the future.
Yeah.
It's kind of what the CSIS listserv is all about, right? People can lean on each other there.
Yeah.
Maybe Kyrene can post the link to that if you're not signed up for that, Chantel.
Okay. Right.
I like Chantel's follow-up.
Yeah.
She was being sarcastic. Yeah, there's 2 listservs. There's a one-way that comes from CDE, the CalPADS listserv, but there's a CSIS listserv that we host, and that's more for LEAs to interact with each other. And, you know, I think most student information systems also have some kind of forum or communication tool that users can use to talk specifically about their SIS.
Then at 3:44, Karen posted the link to the CSIS listserv in case anybody on here isn't signed up for that. Okay. Oh, and then another link. Oh, and so this is the link, 3:45. Karen posted the link to the new language code sets for 23-24. If you haven't seen that already, you can take a look at all those new codes. Again, double check with your SIS, make sure that you are aware of how your SIS wants you, if they've implemented it already, if you can start using those new codes, or if they need you to do any code translation. Each SIS is going to have a little bit different flavor of how they're going to tackle this. All right. Well, with that, let's just, oh no, one more. Shayna, Q1 says, will we ever get extracts back first thing in the morning? I miss the days when I could get everything done at 7 a.m.
Good question. So we do have an outstanding defect on that. It's still, for those of you that are early birds, when you log in between like 6 and 8 a.m., the ODS reports and extracts are not available just yet. Typically, what I've noticed, it's usually around 8 or so that they start popping up. So maybe ask again next week. I will ask a developer assigned to that and see if they're making any progress on the performance. It's just taking longer for the nightly processing to finish.
Shelly says, how about them Dodgers?
Boo.
I know.
We're Giants fans up here, Shelly.
Lily, question 1 says, sorry was late. Is the SELA extract known issue fixed?
I can't think of what that is. Is that ringing a bell with you, Alex?
No.
You happen to have the number, Lily? Or no, that wasn't. Yeah, Lily.
Not seeing an active issue for a SELA.
All right. While Lily responds, I'm going to go over to Rebecca's Q1 says, with the proposed earlier deadlines, any updates on snapshot reports refreshing sooner versus later?
I think that would be excellent feedback to give when you respond to that flash that you're going to get soon.
Rima's here.
Whoa, really? Rima?
Yeah.
What are you doing here, Rima?
We don't have Heather, so I decided to
you're
call in.
talking.
Yeah, she's out sick today.
Okay, well, welcome.
So they are talking about the IPAC results from TOMS. I have not heard what's going on with that just yet. I don't know if we have, do we have Thor on?
He's given an update already.
Okay. On that? Okay, so so I don't know if people heard that one.
The update is that there is no official update. But
I was looking
yeah.
in our VSO just to see if I can find any updates.
Yeah. He says that ETS are still sending files and CALPADS is processing the files, but so smaller files are getting processed.
Yeah.
It's just some LEAs might see ELAS statuses trickle in. I think that the larger files are the ones that are still taking a little bit longer. That's all we have up until now. Alrighty. Well, folks, I
10
think
minutes.
that's it. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone.